Hello chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov chess channel, and welcome to a very special game that I prepared for you today. It's Nepomniachtchi versus Alireza Firouzja, but with an alternative continuation that could have happened, but unfortunately for Alireza it didn't happen because he made a huge blunder in move 23, and that's the exact position that I set up here for you, in which here Alireza made, as I said, a huge mistake. He played knight to d6, allowed here Nepo to take the pawn on b4, and we know Nepo won the game very easily, although it became quite a tactical battle. But Nepo calculated everything like he always calculates. He is a great tactician, and he won the game very easily. So the suggested move here in this particular position by the top engine, also Stockfish 15, is the move queen to c7, and that's what we'll do today. Today we're analyzing this particular position with a beautiful game played by Stockfish 15 against the Dragon engine. So these two engines battled it out in this particular position, and I found this game on a beautiful chess.com tournament on the Computer Chess Championship. You see the link of that tournament in the description below, where many top engines have played the beautiful games from the candidates in 2022, but with alternative continuations, with better continuations, with theoretical improvements, with different ideas and continuations. So as I said, it was a really cool tournament to see. You have really brilliant games by Dragon, as I said, the Stockfish 15 engine, the Scorpion engine. They're playing the candidates in 2022, but in their beautiful way, of course. So let's see now what happened in this particular continuation. We're still starting, of course, the game from the beginning, because we want to, of course, know how this position happened and what are the ideas of the Knight of Sicily, because I think it's a beautiful opening, so we don't want to miss anything in this types of structure. So let's go to the beginning here. Nepomniachtchi opened with the move e4. We have c5, and from the critical point it will be then, of course, Stockfish 15 against the Dragon engine. So knight to f3, d6, d4, c takes d4, knight to d4, knight to f6, knight to c3, and after move a6 the game transposed, of course, into the beautiful Knight of Sicily. Nepo continued here with the move f3 with this beautiful idea to create immediately a flank attack with g4, h4, h5, g5 and similar stuff. We have the normal knight of move e5, knight to b3, bishop to e6, bishop to e3, bishop to e7, queen to d2, kingside castling, and now queenside castling. And we have reached now the most often and most popular line of the Knight of Sicilian. We have reached also a position that's known as the so-called opposite side attack game, where the kings are on the opposite sides, where you have secured the king by castling on opposite sides of the board. And this game becomes always sort of a race situation, where you're trying, of course, to attack your opponent's king. Your opponent will try, of course, to attack your king, but who is faster on the attack will probably win the game. And you should not lose any tempi, any time in your attack, or if you have maybe opportunities to slow down your opponent's pace of the attack, then you should do it. If you can maybe create some kind of a blockade and a good defensive structure, then you should do it. But if you don't find any defensive ideas, you should attack your side where you are better. So these are the common rules, as I said, of this opposite side attack game. Who is faster, as I said, will simply win the game. So that's why it's very important to notice this, because these ideas will happen also in this particular game. So knight from b to d7 was played by Alireza Firouzja. We have g4. You see Nepo is already there. He's already attacking here the king side. We have b5. Also black is continuing the pressure here on the queen side. So g5, we have b4. This is good by Alireza. When you get attacked, you should always consider the counter attack, not always retreat. You can always retreat, but sometimes we forget about a possible counter attack. So that's why here Alireza played a beautiful move. So knight to e2, knight to e8, f4, a5. You see Alireza is making also progress, and now comes one of the critical moments, I think, of the game, where Nepo played the move f5 and Alireza didn't play the counter attack. He played bishop to c4, and this was, I think, his first inaccuracy / mistake. You can call it whatever you like, but I think this is not good here for black. This line, although you see it also in the database, in my opinion, this line is not working, because actually you have stopped your progress, and that's where white is, I think, taking over. What white should have done here and Nepo didn't do is to play knight to g3. Here, instead of this move bishop to c4, better continuation is to play again the counter attack with the move a4, and you're making at least some kind of a progress. If of course black gets challenged with e takes f takes e6, we'll also take out the knight, and then we'll have fun here on the a-file. So as I said, this is much better here for black. So that's why after move bishop to c4, what Nepo should have done, but also he missed, I think, a little bit in this position. Nepo should have played here simply the move knight to g3, getting a new attacker into the game, because now the serious positional threat is the move f6, and then we follow up with the knight on f5. This move knight to g3 would be very important, and here the evaluation is already +1 for white, which is really incredible that in top grandmaster level we're now in move 16, and the evaluation is already so much better for white. So both of them missed, I think, a little bit the theory in the beginning. Of course, I'm watching this game with some computer evaluations. That's not the point to criticize any of them, but as I said, sometimes you see they're also missing good ideas in their own game. So this would be a perfect position, I think, for white. But okay, here in the continuation, after move bishop to c4, Nepo played the more passive king to b1 and allowed now Alireza, of course, to play the move a4 that Alireza should have played anyway a couple of moves ago. So after move a4, Nepo played the knight to c1. We have d5 breaking in the center. We have now this idea f6, and look at this. Look how beautiful this position would have been if you have already your knight here on g3. The knight can jump immediately on this beautiful square on f5. So as I said, after move g takes f6, again the engine suggests this move knight to g3. Again, this beautiful tactical idea, and like in the common opposite side attack game, as I said, even if you I've mentioned this many times, even if you have to lose 1, 2, 3, even 4 pawns, sometimes you just sacrifice your pawns, but you have to open fast. Look at this. After move knight to g3, what could have happened, and Nepo didn't play that. After bishop to f1, rook to f1, maybe d4 could be played, but still we can take out this pawn, and the problem is now you cannot take here because you lose the battle on the d file. Look at this, queen to d7, queen takes d7, here rook to d7. If you take now with the bishop, then look at this, knight to f5 is going to happen. There is now the threat of rook to g1. If you take, of course, here with the knight, you lose the bishop, so this is simply not working here for black. So as I said, after move g takes f6, what Nepo should have done is knight to g3, but in the game he tried here g takes f6, and still he has a good position, because we have to say it, here black has already a naked king sort of, so the king on g8 is a little bit endangered. So we have knight to f6, knight to g3. Now it's a little bit too slow to play the knight like this, but okay, king to bishop to f1, we have rook to f1, and now a3 was played by Alireza. We have b3, and now king to h8, e takes d5, and we have reached now the critical moment, as I said, in this Jan Nepomniachtchi versus Alireza. Alireza played the move knight to d6, which was completely losing for him. But okay, from this point on, we're following now Stockfish 15 against the Dragon Engine. And from this point on, it's getting even much wilder, because Stockfish will play here with immortal attack with so many beautiful sacrifice, with a rook queen sacrifice, so be prepared. This is again brilliant Stockfish brutal stuff. So here the Dragon Engine played the better line, sort of, at least it's the suggested line, queen to c7, so not allowing to take out the pawn on b4 immediately. But now what Stockfish did is the brilliant and brutal rook sacrifice. Rook takes f6, and you see now this pawn is rolling here, because the problem is now you cannot take with the knight, you get d6, and you have to, of course, take out with the bishop, but d6 is going to happen anyway, and this pawn is now very dangerous. You have to now make several choices. The problem for black in this position is that you have to lose your b4 pawn, you have to lose another pawn. For instance, if you try to protect your pawn with queen to b8, it's not good, because you get this one, you get d7, the knight has to move, and you get bishop to c5, and the rook is a little bit endangered here, so you have two squares only. You have the square rook to d8, but it's not getting better, because look at this now, how important the knight here is also in the attack. You see how this attack will be really stretched all over the board. Now after move knight to h5, you don't have good squares for the bishop. This square is covered, this square is covered. If you take, then we'll take out immediately. The queen comes with a check. You have to play bishop to h4, and now the queen comes very actively into the game. Look at this, we have here queen to h6. If you cover, of course, then knight to f6 is going to happen, so it's game over. You can even, I think, play d8 and similar stuff. You can play including the knight into the game. Whatever you do, I think it's perfectly fine here for white. So it's not working. So let's go back. Instead of this move move rook to d8, you can also play, of course, rook to g8, but still knight to e4 is working. Still we have to attack this bishop. Now the bishop has again only one good square, and now with queen to f2, look at this pawn is hanging. Knight to d6 is going to happen, then with knight to f7, so it's not a good position anymore for black. The evaluation here is +5 for white, believe me or not. So really wild stuff. So that's why after move d6 here, you cannot protect your pawn on b4, and that's now a huge problem in this position. Queen to c6 had to be played by the dragon engine. We have queen to b4, we have bishop to g7, and now queen to c5. Here Stockfish offers trades of queens, because after queen to c5, bishop to c5, the huge tactical threat is always the move d7, advancing the pawn and opening diagonal. So you have to play something like knight to f6, but look at this, c4 is going to happen, and now we have to just remove the bishop here, and we'll simply push the pawn further. And look at this, white's attack is much faster. We would have two, maybe in some occasions even three connected pawns, pass pawns, and the rook, I think, cannot battle against this artillery here on the queen side, so it will be a much better continuation again for white. So what you could do, instead of this move queen takes c5, if you don't want to trade off the queens, again you can try maybe this blockade with queen to d7, but look at this, queen to d5 is going to happen, so we're attacking the rook. Now you can play now this one, but look at this, knight to e4 is going to happen, and now with knight to c5, this is again a beautiful continuation here for white. So let's go back. So after move queen to c5, the dragon engine sensed that it has to stay with the queens on the board. It has to make some kind of a defensive idea here. So that's why here the dragon engine tried queen to f3, attacking the rook. We have rook to d3, also placing the rook on the same rank like the queen, attacking the queen. Maybe discovered the attack is possible. Bishop to h6, or similar stuff. So that's why here queen to g4, and now queen to d5, attacking again the rook. Rook to d8, bishop to c5. Again we have this beautiful motif, bishop to c5, attacking the rook on f8, and now d7 is of course the beautiful tactical shot. So we have here f5 by the dragon engine. If you try something like knight to c7, I've also analyzed this line, it's actually not good, because here, believe it or not, white can even sacrifice the queen. How beautiful this position for white is, and how dangerous this pawn on the d file is, because okay, you can take, but look at this, rook to d5, you may be playing a blockade, and now rook to d8 is very dangerous, because now you have to cover with your bishop to f8, and the game is over. So really stunning tactics. So let's go back. So after move bishop to c5, we see knight to c7 is not working. f5 would be the possibility, and that was also the dragon continuation. f5, and now d7 anyway. So now we have this beautiful motif, attack against the knight, and the rook is hanging. So in order to make some kind of a defensive idea here, you have to play knight to f6, at least a counter attack here, and Stockfish played queen to e6, and the queen is sneaking in here. Really dangerous, this position by the queen. We have now e4 again. Here the dragon engine is trying a counter attack. We have a rook to d4. This move is again very important, because you're not allowing the further progress of this pawn. So we are not allowing maybe some ideas of f4, and then maybe with e3, because the rook is of course in the same rank, and if something gets clear, then again the queen could be in danger. So we have here knight to d7 by the dragon engine. So the dragon engine sensed that it doesn't make sense to leave this pawn like this. If you try something like f4 instead of knight takes d7, it's still not better, because knight to f5 is going to happen. Look how again white's pieces are playing in beautiful harmony. Maybe you can play knight to g8, but still I think bishop to f8 always works. So it's again much better here for the Stockfish engine. This pawn is hanging. You're a little bit vulnerable here on the long diagonal if you take out with the bishop. So many tactical shots can happen here in white's favor. So this is not working. So after move rook to d4, we have knight takes d7 by the dragon engine, and we have now rook to d7, and now queen to g6. If you take here rook to d7 from black's perspective, then of course queen to d7, and the game is basically over. Although you have the rook for two minor pieces, and you have maybe these two connected pawns, but look at this, this is simply too much to handle. We have also here the opportunity to push the pawns. This pawn is hanging on f5. If we take out this pawn, then you don't have any more two connected pawns, so it's +7 evaluation here for white. So as I said, after move rook to d7, the Dragon Engine tried an interesting idea, queen to g6, and now comes the most beautiful part of the game. Here Stockfish decided even to sacrifice the queen. Here Stockfish played a brilliant bishop to f8, really wild stuff, and of course the Dragon Engine accepts the challenge, plays now queen to e6, but now Stockfish takes another rook to d8. And okay, let's stop and again evaluate the position. This is really wild what Stockfish did here. Okay, Stockfish has, we have to say it, okay, Stockfish has a rook and 2 minor pieces for the queen, but I really was scared a little bit here for white, because look at this, these 2 pawns are marching, but how Stockfish will solve now the positional problems about these 2 pawns, that was quite impressive. So believe it or not, this is really stunning what Stockfish is doing here. Here in the continuation, after bishop to d8, the Dragon Engine tried h5, and this move makes sense because here we want to play from black's perspective the move h4. We want to neutralize a little bit the activity of the knight. If you play something like the bishop to f8, if you maybe take out here the bishop, then of course rook to f8, we have king to g7, and now rook to f5. That's now the position that I think white wants to get, at least getting one of these pawns. When the pawns are not connected, it's not such a powerful position anymore for black, so that's why this is very important. So that's why also the Dragon Engine didn't take out the bishop and f8, try to make progress further with the move h5. So now Stockfish plays bishop to h3, takes out also this annoying pawn, although we shouldn't really count now pawns, but this is quite an annoying pawn because many times you could get checkmated with the support by this pawn. So bishop to a3, very important also defensive move for Stockfish 15. King to h7, we have knight to h5 attacking the bishop, bishop to e5, rook to f8. As I said, we want to simply grab one of these pawns. So we have queen to g6 attacking the knight, knight to g3, and after f4, here in the continuation, bishop to b2 was played by Stockfish. So if you try here bishop to g3, if you take out the knight, this is not good because after h takes g3, this pawn is stopping a little bit the further progress of this pawn. Then these are not anymore 2 connected pass pawns. They are connected, but they're not pass pawns anymore. At least one of these pawns is hitting this pawn on g3. So that's why at least the pawn on g3 is protecting the further progress for a while, not maybe as a long run, but as I said, it's at least some kind of a defensive piece. So that's why this continuation is not good. Maybe you can play e3, pushing the pawn further, but now look at this, bishop to b2. Now we're building really a checkmate pattern here with rook to h8. You have to play now queen to e6, but look at this, bishop to c3. You can maybe push the pawn further, but now with knight to d3, everything is glued together, everything is compact, no further progress with the pawn on e1. We're securing the king here on b2, and we finally push our pawn further. This pawn is paralyzed anyway by this pawn and by the knight, and this pawn is paralyzed by the knight and the bishop. So this will be a huge defensive setup for white, and white is winning the game. So as I said, we just secured the king on b2, and we're just pushing the pawn further. Game over here for black. So after move knight to g3, so as I said, bishop to g3 is not working. You have to keep your pawns connected if you want to stay in the game here from black's perspective. So f4 was played by the Dragon Engine. We have bishop to b2, and now after bishop to b2, Stockfish plays again a beautiful move, rook to f4. Sacrificing now the bishop, is saying I have enough compensation, but at least black doesn't have its main strength, its connected pawns here on the king side. So we have bishop to c1. If you try to retreat here to g7, then you get of course knight to e4, so we'll simply take out this other pawn. So that's why here bishop to c1 was played by the Dragon Engine. King to c1, we have rook to queen to h6, knight to e2, protecting everything, and now after move rook to h2, we have king to d2, and Stockfish has now a good position where it's connected to the knight, and eventually will take out simply this pawn, and this is completely winning here for white. So in the continuation, we have queen to h1, a4. Stockfish makes progress with the pawn. We have king to g6, a5. We have king to g5. We have a6. We have queen to h7, a7, and now after queen takes a7, finally Stockfish can take out the pawn, and black is only now the queen in order to make further progress. So really beautiful position that Stockfish reached now. It's maybe in human level, I'm not sure how many of us would play really the correct moves, but when it comes to top engine, Stockfish is winning such endgames for sure. So we have now a rook and the knight two pawns, two connected pass pawns, and this is much better. So here in the continuation, queen to a5, king to d3. So the dragon engine played a couple of checks, but we have to also notice a very important thing is here that the Stockfish engine has now the knight, and the knight is best always to defend the king, not even the queen. The knight is really the best defensive piece, because black can never really create perpetual checks, so that will exactly also happen here. The knight will be a huge defensive piece, and white just needs to let his pawns rolling. So knight to d4, we have queen to c3, a check, king to e2, we have king to h5, king to d1. So here Stockfish secures first the king, plays now knight to e2, attacking the queen. We have queen to c6, and now rook to c4. Look how Stockfish is keeping the pieces glued together, how Stockfish keeps them compact. We have queen to h1, king to b2, now king to e7, knight to c3. The king is trying desperately to get included into the game, but look at this, the rook is not allowing some defensive strategies here for black. So in the continuation, we have b4, queen to b7. Now again the king is marching, supporting the pawn. Queen to h1, Stockfish simply pushed the pawn further. We have rook to c5, we have queen to g1, knight to a4, protecting now the rook. Again trying c4, and then king to g4, maybe even escape with king to a4, a5, and then maybe with king to b6. So we're trying always to get maybe the king in front of the pawn. So again, I'm pointing out the rook is here paralyzing the potential king's activity by black. So queen to b1, a check, not a problem. You cannot create perpetuals, because as I said, we have now this kind of motif. Really beautiful stuff here by Stockfish. Queen to e4, rook to c4. Now again Stockfish advanced the pawn further. So from black's perspective, you can always just create a couple of checks, but never perpetuals, and white is making slowly but surely some progress in the continuation. So queen to d6, king to b5, again a check, again Stockfish covers. Now again Stockfish plays queen to b4, another check, rook to c4, now knight to c5, very important move to again include the knight into the defense. We have queen to b1, we have again a check, now rook to a4 covering, the knight is attacked, so rook to d4, we have king to c8, and now look at this, king to a6 is going to happen, and now also b7 is now huge threat, followed with some beautiful checks here on d8. So that's why, oh sorry, let's go back to this moment. Sorry, I messed it up. So in this position, as we said, rook to e4, queen to a2 was played. We have king to b5, we have queen to f7, rook to e1, we have queen to g6, and now c4. Again, slowly but surely, Stockfish is making further progress. King to d8, rook to d1, we have king to e7, rook to d7, a check, and now Stockfish just pushed the pawn further. Only one check is possible, but now look at this, king to c6. You can again play just one more check, again a new check, and now the game is over. No more checks are possible. Here the dragon engine tried queen to g2, but now Stockfish promotes a new queen to c6. Now a couple of checks, and from this point on it was game over. After knight to e6 in move 96, it was a beautiful checkmate by Stockfish 15. So stunning game, we have to say. I'm not sure of course how Nepo would make progress if Alireza would have played the move queen to c7, but I'm sure that Nepo would sacrifice at least the rook. So let's go back. In this position, I'm sure that Nepo would do that. Let's go to this critical moment. So after move queen to c7, I'm sure really that Nepo would at least sacrifice the rook and push the pawn further. That for sure would be his main tactic. I'm not sure how he would have played afterwards, if he would see maybe this immortal queen sacrifice that Stockfish pulled off. But I also think that Nepo would still win the game anyway, because first of all, Nepo is in top shape in this tournament, Alireza is not, and it was still a good position. Even in this position, the engine gives here a +1 evaluation for white. So as I said, maybe it would just prolong the game for Alireza, but this was too much pressure here by white. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this Nepo versus Alireza game, but in Stockfish versus the dragon manner, sort of. So as I said, in my opinion, one of the best games from the tournament, but also here Stockfish shows immortal skills again with some wild ideas. So okay, if you want to see more brilliant Stockfish 15 games, and if you want to see more games from the candidates in 2022, here are our playlists. You can also check out some other great games that we have analyzed before. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.